Very special guest today on Absolutely Famous is Patrick Majewski, an 18-year-old who has had a fair bit of trauma in his young life, and it's an amazing story. Patrick's very bravely fronted up to tell us about an accident which caused his injuries, which very sadly also took the life of his late father. And Patrick, thanks for bravely sharing your story. And it was way back in 2011. You're 7 years old on a camping trip, and what happened on that day? And
so on that day, we were, from what I remember, we were finishing up to go up back to our campsite, visiting Carrageen Gorge, and then I was walking up the trail, and then sadly slipped and gone over, and my father had grabbed my hand and I pulled him with me. From then, me and him free fell 21 metres before we hit the ground, and he broke the fall and sadly passed away from that. And from that traumatic incident, I sustained a broken thumb, a broken spinal cord, internal bleeding, and right lobe brain damage.
so were you aware at what stage? How long were you unconscious for? A long time?
Yeah, I was unconscious for about 4 weeks, and after that I was still very mute, and I didn't know how to do anything, so I had to learn how to talk, swallow, eat, drink and breathe on my own again.
That's incredible. So you're basically like a newborn baby.
Yeah, I was very at a newborn baby in a 7-year-old's body.
Were you aware of anything at the time? Were you aware of what had happened, or?
Not at the time, because my brain injury stopped me from all the memories I had from my past life, and that I just didn't have the basic motor function to do stuff all over again.
Did you remember anything about that day? Anything about the fall, or?
The last thing I remember was my family sitting on a rock, which my sister actually has a photo of my friends, my family, and my dad sitting on a rock taking a photo.
And that's it? So you weren't aware, you don't recall the fall or your dad grabbing you? Or?
No, I don't recall me falling, which I'm glad I don't, because that would have been horrible for me to relive that. But I have done things like this and told people over and over again, which I'm comfortable and fine with, but I have recreated that scenario in my head.
A pretty brave dad, obviously. He did what all us dads would hope we would do.
Yeah. He was very courageous that day, taking his life for my own, saving his own firstborn little child that day. Yeah,
that's amazing. And of course, really traumatic for your family, your other maternal brother and sister and your mum Helen, and be pretty tough on them.
Yeah, it was very hard that day. Mum clearly didn't know what to do, like no one would know what to do in that situation. And I only had a almost 6-year-old sister and a 3-year-old brother at that time, so she didn't know what to do with them either. Luckily she had her friends there with her that could look after them, so she could go in the helicopter with me to Royal Perth Hospital, when then I was later diagnosed with the injuries I have now.
Yeah. So how did you go about learning everything again? I mean, as you say, you're virtually a newborn baby, so how tough was that?
It was very tough to learn how to do everything again, but it's just like anything else. You just take it one step at a time, and you learn how to do anything you put your mind to, and you learn how to do anything like everyone else can.
So what was the first thing you remember learning when you...
The first thing I remember learning was probably, I hated it back then, but I like doing it now, is pushing up steep hills.
Yeah.
I remember hating that.
In your chair?
Yeah, in my chair,
yeah.
When it was a lot bigger and bulkier to what it is now, but just having the strain on my shoulders and my back and my arms, that used to be the worst part of my day, which now I find that the most easiest and the most enjoyable part of my day.
Yeah. See, I would never have known if you hadn't have told me that you lost the ability to speak or think
Yeah.
or anything, because you seem to be, are you pretty much more than 100% back to where you were?
More than 100%, yeah. I try do the best I can, but there are sometimes when I do have that mental block and I just don't know what to say, think or do.
Yeah, so how do you cope with that? Is it pretty traumatic for you when that sort of thing happens?
For me now, it doesn't happen that often, so I don't really have to worry about it, but even when it does happen, it's normally over minor stuff that doesn't matter, and it's pretty easy to just brush off my shoulders and not think about.
Yeah, so I guess what you've gone through has probably made you so resilient and determined. You've probably got a big advantage over a lot of other people.
Yeah, I try to stay determined and try to keep the good things in life at heart. Like, I like coming to the gym now every day when I can to just put a smile on my face, and plus that's good for my mental health as well. It keeps me sane. So,
Same reason I go running.
yeah.
Same
Yeah.
reason. So how, in the gym, how long have you been coming to the gym?
I've been coming to the gym since year 7 once a week
Yep.
to do the Young Guns program, but when I turned 16, I could get my full gym membership where I could come as much as I want. So I could go to the gym, which I, first of all, hated to do because my mum used to take me on her runs around the block, which I used to hate doing because I used to be so sore afterwards, but now I love doing those kinds of things.
Yeah. So how do you get yourself around transport-wise?
Transport-wise, I've got my own car that's got their own attachments onto it, so I can drive it, even anyone else can drive it
Fantastic.
as well. So it's not specialized, it is specialized for me, but anyone else can drive it. So
I guess you're almost fully, well, are you fully independent virtually?
I am fully
Yeah.
independent. Yeah, I do my own cooking, cleaning, I do my own washing, I've got my own household duties, I dry the dishes, let alone how much I hate doing that.
Don't we all?
I mow the lawns on a ride-on mower, so I'm independent as I can be.
Fantastic. You live with mum and
Yeah,
And the stepdad?
I still live with my mum and dad.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got my own little granny flat at the back of the house, so I can kind of stay away from the family, but still be a part of the household.
Yeah. And you're working for a disability company that puts people like yourself into careers. That must be pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I do work for a company called Forest Personnel. They help people like me with physical, mental and emotional disabilities get employment. So I work in the NDIS side, so I help anyone with the NDIS plan get employment and stay with that employment person.
There's a lot of satisfaction in doing that.
Yeah, there is. It's not so much for the money side, it's more for the emotional side and building people up and seeing them get stronger and more determined to do what they want to do.
Like your self-esteem, improving that. Your self-esteem seems really good. You've obviously
all
worked
I
on that.
want to do is help other people achieve their goals, just like people wanted me to achieve my personal goals in the past.
Yeah. So you didn't at any stage just sit back and sort of despair about what had happened and sort of get pretty upset about it, or you were just positive right from the word
I
go?
do try to stay positive most of the time. Sometimes I do get a little bit down, just like everyone else does. But even then, it's only for a short amount of time now. I just try to look at the positive things. Like, hey, I could have passed away that day and I would not have done all I've done now.
Yeah, it wasn't your time. And tell us a little bit about your dad, your late dad. He was a school teacher, obviously, and you moved around a bit.
Yeah, he was a school teacher. I was born in Kalgoorlie, and then we moved to Top Place and Leinster, so it was all up north. I'm a desert baby, so I like the heat, and I like doing like outdoor riding stuff, and like going in golf carts and stuff like that.
Yeah. And what did your dad? What was your dad's first name?
My dad's name is Christopher.
Christopher. So what did Christopher? What was his favourite hobbies?
Christopher, he was obviously a school teacher.
Yeah.
But he loved hanging out with his 3 little kids. We used to throw boomerangs all the time. We used to go on bike rides together. He used to take us to the golf club, where we used to hang out there with our friends because it was a small little town we used to live in. So yeah.
Yeah, pretty awesome childhood, I would have thought, by the sound
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
definitely good from what I can remember, yeah.
Yeah. So, what's a message you might want to give to people who are maybe not in the same situation, because I don't know anyone else who's in the same situation as yours, but struggling with whatever issues? What sort of advice could you give them?
The only piece of advice I could really give is just to stay on the positive side of things and not let the negative overtake all the goodness that the world has to offer you and what you have to offer the world.
Exactly. You obviously like helping people, as your
Obviously,
job would
yeah, I do.
say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And any sort of goals in the gymnasium when you come down, or?
Just to build up my physical strength, maybe just to get a little bit stronger and a little bit bigger, but I do obviously got to stay agile for being in my position, just got to try to stay as lean as I can.
Yeah. Well, you're an inspiration, an absolute inspiration, Patrick. And
Thank you.
Congratulations on all that you've achieved so far.
Thank
Much
you.
more to come with it.